Hey guys, I guess this is a bit of a different look from what I usually have, but I'm going to do a show on the Tippmann A5, and I've got my own A5 here. This be she. I've had it for about 6 years. It is, oh no, sorry, 5 years. It is a 2009 Tippmann A5. I think it's 2009 at least. If it's not 2009, it's 2010. No, it's not. It's 2009. The year after I got this was when they changed over to the new style of A5s, where this little nub here is made of plastic. This comes stock, and they're basically the same thing except with a few different parts that you cannot use these with those. So, one of the reasons I bought an A5 is, well, I guess I'll give you some background. Tippmann has been making paintball guns forever. Like, literally since, like, biblical times. That's how long Tippmann's been making paintball guns. It started with the pumps, then it moved on to the blowbacks, and now what they're known for is that inline tube. The power tube is like here. They've got a hammer at the back. Oh, I can't see. So the power tube's here. They've got a hammer at the back, and there's a linkage arm that goes to the front, and that's what moves the bolt. That's kind of their signature valve system that they use. And it works pretty well. It's very reliable. I've heard some people who run low pressure systems can actually crack the plastic of the power tube because the hammer starts going in really far, which can also happen if you consistently let your tank run low, which is why I have a gauge here to let me know what the input pressure is, because sometimes the input pressure is not what you think it is, but it usually is. Another reason I put this here is because when I'm shooting this, it's right there, although right now my tank gauge is facing me too. So, one of the things people will tell you about A5s, and Tippmann in general as a product name, is that Tippmanns are indestructible. And, maybe the older Tippmanns were. Maybe the 98s are indestructible. I kind of wish I'd have got a 98 instead of the A5. Although my 98 probably would have ended up with a cyclone feed on it and an RT like this one has. But this thing, over the course of the 6 or 7 years that I've had it, it's had a lot of issues. It's a very violently moving gun when it shoots, especially with this RT. It really starts moving. This is my third hopper. The first one I had, was ripped off the side by someone who's probably going to watch this show at some point, you fucker. But he bought me a new one, which I was rocking for a while. But these clear cyclone feed tubes, pretty neat. You can see your balls feeding in. They cost a shitload of money. They're probably I think they were $80 a pop, which is that's stupid expensive. And they're made out of this really crusty plastic that's it just, the last one I had cracked, and I'm pretty sure it just cracked from the cycling of this ramrod in here, because I've got all the metal internals in here, so maybe it's jolting it a little, I don't know. But what I've done now is I've got the stock Tippmann bottom plate on, and I've got this clear cyclone housing on there, and it seems to be working okay. One thing I would say, yeah, I pet it sometimes. One thing I would suggest is this guy here. Where is it? Yeah, this guy. This is the Tombstone Latch. On new A5s, including this one, they come plastic. It is a plastic Tombstone Latch. That broke after about 3 or 4 years. Because I was having an issue at one point where air would leak out of the tombstone. One of the O-rings got pinched because I felt that the best way to lubricate it was to take the tombstone out and put lube in there because it was going right into the valve. And yeah, it lubricated it really well, but the issue was that the wear on the tombstone latch, being plastic, eventually just broke the tombstone latch. And once the tombstone latch broke, then the only thing holding it in was this cotter pin here. That was the only thing holding the air supply into the tombstone. And when you gas it up, the tombstone would move just a little bit down, just enough so that the O-ring could shift out of position right under the tombstone. So that was a pain in the ass, and I managed to find a metal tombstone adapter on Tippmann, not Tippmann Parts, eBay, actually. So definitely that's something to watch out for. Any plastic is generally a bad idea. The reason, this was the second paintball gun I got. The first paintball gun I got was from a ex-girlfriend who told me she was going to get me a paintball gun, and ended up getting me a Brass Eagle T-Storm, which lasted about 8 months before it stopped working inexplicably. So then I went and got myself this little puppy, and it's been pretty good. And you know, aside from wear and tear, this is my second sear. I'm on my second sear. I'm pretty sure what fucked up my first sear was using the Tect hairpin trigger kit, because basically what it does is it just lowers your sear so that less of your sear comes in contact with the hammer, and as the hammer goes back, the less of the sear that's there, the more impact it's putting on less material, so it just kind of sheared off part of the sear. So yeah, the hairpin trigger kit kind of sucks. This thing's probably had like 70,000 shots put through it. Fair amount of shots. What else? I've got the New Designs bolt in here, which, believe it or not, does actually improve air efficiency by probably like 20 balls in a pod, or 20 balls on a tank, I mean. And what the New Designs bolt does is it's a Delrin bolt, exactly the same as the Tippmann bolt, except it has a little O-ring on the inside of it to seal it against the power tube. Simple little thing, but it works really well. One thing I would like to talk about is the A5 E-grip, this new Hall Effect selector switch E-grip. Believe it or not, this is like 4 years old. I used it, I put maybe 20,000 shots through it, and it stopped working. For a while it made a clicking noise like the solenoid was firing, and then it just kind of stopped. And I ended up taking this to my computer guy, who's friggin' whiz with electronics, and we took it apart and we looked at the board, and he looked at the board and he went, "Who the fuck would design a board like why would anyone design this like this? This is ridiculous. It's made to break." Basically what they've done is they've put the solenoid on an angle here, and they've got the board running, sorry, up at the front, is it? Yeah, they've got the board running up at the front here. So the board sits stiff, and then you've got this solenoid coming off at like a 30-degree angle, and the only thing securing it is not very much solder, and a shitty plastic sheath. So what ended up happening was, as I said, Tippmanns can be violent shooting guns. It actually vibrated the solenoid just a little bit every time it shot until, you know, if you take a wire and you bend it, you bend it, and you bend it, eventually it's just going to snap. And that's what happened. It's the solenoid, the wires that connected the solenoid to the board broke, and yeah, so I got him to fix it for me. I think he charged me like 25 bucks, which was a steal because the other paintball fields charge like 50 bucks for that kind of shit, and they probably don't do as good a job as he did. But you know, it works. But in the time it took me to figure out what the hell was wrong with this, take it into my computer guy, have him fix it, and then actually, you know, get it back from him, I just got an RT. I got a response trigger. If any of you guys have ever used a response trigger, you know that it is the fucking tits. Better than an E-trigger, in my opinion. IMHO. Don't get me wrong, E-triggers are nice when they work, but you know, this thing will shoot 15 balls a second underwater. I don't need to worry about it. Well, except for that. I might need to worry about the speed feed if I put it underwater. Yeah, one thing I would say about Tippmanns is that there are lots of parts for them. Anyone you hear say, oh, my Tippmann never breaks, Tippmanns never break, they're full of shit. Tippmanns break. They probably, especially A5s, probably break more than your average gun because there's just so many parts. There's so many parts. And especially once you start putting aftermarket parts on them, that's, you know, obviously you void the warranty. And that's, yeah, that's basically it. Are they accurate? They're accurate. They're accurate if you one-ball things. You know, if you sit there going boom, 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 then yeah, it's pretty accurate. Like anything is pretty accurate. But once you start letting it do its thing, it vibrates itself. Actually, the last time I used this one, this thing was vibrating so much, I was going nuts with the RT. Absolutely nuts. It broke the safety. Now you can see that glinting in the light there. This is metal. It broke the fucking safety. 70,000 shots. Broke the safety. And it's kind of like, it's little things like that that will go wrong. You know, the body is solid. The internals are solid. The sear might go on you. You know, little things like this or this, they might go on you. You might end up wearing down the cyclone feed, which is why I got a metal one, because I figure it'll probably just last longer, the components, and since this push rod is metal, you lose less energy to the flex of the plastic when it's pushing the cyclone feed through. Yeah, you know, it's a good backup gun. This is one of those things where guys who play speedball will look at me and say, Tippmann. And guys who play Milsim will look at me and go, what the fuck did you do to that Tippmann? Can't make anyone happy, except me, because this thing, you know, it stays tight so you can get close to a bunker, or you can just pop out from behind a doorway if you're doing some CQB kind of stuff. But yeah, this is second gun I've ever owned. I've kept it going a long time. I probably won't ever sell this thing because it works. And when it doesn't work, you know, it might take you a month to figure out why it's not working because there's so many parts. But once you figure it out, there's so many parts available. You can buy a Tippmann in pieces off of tippmannparts.com. It'll be expensive, but you can do it. And they're great at tippmannparts.com. This is kind of a shameless plug. I don't work for them. I've had to rely on them for a lot of obscure parts for this thing, and they've been great every time. Yeah, so I guess that's it. Yeah, if you guys have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below. Have a good week, guys. See ya.